Hey, welcome back, YouTube. So this is part two of the revolver handgun modeling gaming thing series. Awesome. Uh, in the last lesson, we were working on the scope. So in this lesson, I'm going to start working on the hold down brackets for the scope. So whenever you're working with anything like this, you can, as I said in the last video, there's all sorts of ways to do this. You can most certainly just take the edge loop tool and you can loop it like so. This is actually one of the easier ways of doing it, just because all you have to do is just line up these edges. And from there, you have a few different options. I'm going to add an edge loop right here and right here. And then I'm going to add one right here too, why not? And I'll explain why here in just a minute. So in the last video, you remember me saying that this doesn't have this hump that comes this way. The hump is actually what follows the contour of the scope itself. So the advantage of me adding these edge loops, and for this one I'm just going to duplicate this one over here. But the advantage of having the edge loops in the object like this is that when you go into the front view, really you can just follow the contour from here. And so you'll select the vertices you need. You'll come in here and look at them, and you can always just kind of work from the front view, and you can kind of see what you're doing over here. I'm just, I'm lazy like that, so that's how I roll. So we'll select those, and I'm going to move them in. Actually, also going to move these up just a little bit. And then we will rotate, like so. Here we go. Beautiful as a newborn baby's butt. So then we'll select those vertices, we'll move these down, just going to move them down to about there, and then we'll select the ones in the middle, and we will move these up, like so. And I'm actually looking up in this viewport as I'm moving these up, and it looks like we are going to have to move these after all. So then we'll just move these up right about there. And so, oh come on. And so now, whenever we go into this viewport, we'll hit 3, and we'll see how it looks smooth, and honestly, I think I can live with this. I really do. So I'm just going to add a quick edge loop down here on the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And so now when we smooth it, that looks a lot better. Still not quite what I want, though. The reason why we're getting this weird, abnormally shaped object is because as I'm trying to create an edge loop right here, it can't do it. And the reason why it can't do it, because this is actually its own little outside cylinder surface. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's basically where all the points come into one. So an easy fix to this, let me just go here. I'm going to select these. No, I need the upper ones. Let me go ahead and delete these real quick, so this way I don't run into any issues. So I'm going to select those, make sure it's just those faces that are selected, and it is. I'm going to extrude. I'm going to click on my scale tool. I'm just going to scale this in just a little bit. And so now with that done, I can actually come in here and I can create an edge loop right here, and I can also create one right here now. The reason why I deleted them earlier is because you can scale them, but you might run into issues, and so I just like to try and keep everything as uniform as possible. Now I could work a little bit more on these edges right here and get this more uniform, but for the sake of keeping the tutorial short, I'm not going to. You can call me lazy or whatever, I agree with you. Alright, so now that we got this done, the next thing we need to do is actually, this is going to be, I'm going to say it's going to be a fairly tight profile. So essentially we're just going to add edge loops on the outside of this ring right here. And now whenever we select the top and bottom, we'll hit smooth, and that actually doesn't look half bad. And so just like before, we will select these faces. We will go into extrude, and then we'll select on the scale on the manipulator and scale it down. Now, if you're wondering why I'm using the manipulator instead of the actual scale tool, the reason why, because the manipulator will hover over the selected faces. And so because I got both faces selected, it's actually scaling everything uniformly. Whereas if I did it like this, I'd have to scale it down, then come in here and scale it back. And it's kind of a pain, so I try not to use this too much whenever I'm doing something like that. So the next thing we need to do is create the edge loops up here in the top corners, which I'm sure you saw that coming a mile away. So I'm just going to put a few edge loops up here, like so. Object mode, and we'll hit 3. And there we go. That's the hold down bracket. So one other thing I need to do is I actually need to bring this down just a hair. I don't need to bring it down too much, but the reason why, because this way you actually have like a little gap right here. Now, if you're playing the game, you'll never actually look in this close. But having that gap there makes it a little bit more believable that this is a snap-on piece. And so now we will duplicate these. We will move them forward. Move them right about here. And so now we'll select the old ones, delete those, and we will select these vertices and move them down. And that's all there is to that. So for the, oh come on, get out of it. So for the, I don't know what those are called. I just know they're, I guess, adjusters for the scope. I don't really know. Some of y'all gun lovers out there would probably be like, you idiot, it's called this. And I'd agree with you. I am an idiot. I really don't know much about guns. Oh, sorry about that. Hope you didn't have your earphones on playing loud. If you did, you can talk to me about it in the parking lot. So I'm actually going to select both of these. I'm going to, why did I just do that? Come on, Jimmie. Select the edge loop. I'm going to make it tight on the outside profile. And the reason why, because if I go in here and smooth this out, this is actually going to be covering these faces on the inside. So because they're covering the faces on the inside, I can just come in here and I can actually delete these faces on the inside. And that will actually save me a little bit on the poly count. Now, right now, you're probably looking at the poly count being like, oh, wow, you're way over. The reason why, because whenever you do the smooth previews, it actually calculates like if you were to hit the smooth button twice. And so as you can see, my tries right now are 65.56. I will come back later on and clean the scene up. Right now, I'm just trying to slap some random stuff together. But one thing I could do real quickly and easily, let me just go ahead and combine these two and I'll show you. So I can select these as faces, I can deselect those, and then the next thing I need to deselect are these little corners right here. We do not want those. You'll see what I'm doing here in just a second. If you're following along, then bravo. So right now, you're like, but you don't have anything selected. Well, actually I do. I have the faces right here on the inside selected. And I can actually delete those. And I will do the same thing over here. And this way, whenever I smooth these, it won't add to the poly count. So I'm not going to be like real worried about how much resolution there is or isn't. Let's see, let me just select these, then I'll deselect these, and do the same thing. So as you can see, the tries right now are 432. Whenever I hit delete, now they go down to 318. And whenever you come back in to smooth this later on, it will it will actually greatly reduce the final amount of triangles you have. Right now my scene is currently at just a little under 2,000. Still not quite where I want it, but I can manipulate that a little bit later on whenever I come back to clean up the scene. So let's go ahead and start working on the handgun itself. I'm going to start with the handle. The handle piece is actually really interesting because if you've ever seen one of these without it, it's just like this little like egg shape right down here, and it just kind of like blends back in with the rest of the body. So the handle is its own little entity. And the thing that's going to make this one easy for texture mapping is the fact that if you look right here, there's this little black edge like the wooden handle is actually added on. That's actually going to make it significantly easier later on whenever we do the texture mapping. So as we did the hammer before, all I'm doing is just following the contours of the... that is not what I wanted. Okay, good. If you're wondering what just happened, I accidentally clicked on the reduce faces, and that's why it turned into a triangle for a little bit. So yeah, just continue following the contour. Now, whenever I'm modeling, I know I've said this in the last video, I'm actually really picky. It's probably because I have autism, which autism rules. When I get down here towards the bottom of the handle, I'm actually creating multiple faces, and the only reason for that is when you smooth it out later on, I think it just looks so much cleaner, and it looks a lot more professional. And that's basically the only reason for me doing that, is for that one and only reason. So I'm going to go up here, going to go up here, and I'm going to go right here. Then for this side, going to go here, going to go here, and then I'm going to go here. And I'm actually trying to keep from having to split the handle down the middle, which is why I'm trying to stick with just one-sided. Now, I'll probably have to add an edge loop down the middle later on, but right now I'm really trying to avoid that. So we got the handle done. The next thing we need to do is we need to start working on the body, which it is the same principle. So we'll select this right here, and we're actually going to have this go into the handle a little bit, but not a whole lot. So something kind of like that. Nothing too extravagant. And then I'm going to... it did not do it. I don't know why it didn't, but yay. So then we'll just start modeling from here. I'm actually going to move this up just... oh, that's why, because I need another edge loop. Duh. There we go. Okay, that's nice. Very nice. So, really? There we go. Okay. Onward here. Alright, so whenever I model up to here, I'm trying to think of the gun as being into, I guess you'd say multiple pieces. I know the body's one solid piece, but when I say that, I mean this piece will go up and this piece will actually come forward. So I'm going to start with this face since it's already selected, and I don't want any more bad luck. Because right now y'all are probably laughing at me saying, man, that dude's computer sucks. But, you know, it's whatever. So I'm going to hide the hammer for a second. And I'm just going to follow the contour of this edge back here, right about there. And then I'm going to bring this up, move this forward, and bring this up. So after I've done that, I can now take these, and I'm going to move them right about here. Let me select all of these. I'm going to flatten these, and I will move them here. Now, whenever you're modeling, one very important piece of information, I actually seen this on another tutorial that, I mean, this just significantly helped my modeling skills. Whenever you're modeling, try to keep the contours of whatever you're modeling uniform, and it will just give it that much more realism to what you're creating. So back to the gun down here. I'm actually going to create multiple edge loops, and I'm looking down here on this curve. I'm basically just following this curve every so often. So we'll go right about there. I'm actually going to move these back just a hair. I'm going to move these forward just a hair, and then do the same thing here. This way everything will actually level out. Oops. It will level out later on. Just move these back to right about there. Okay. So now all I have to do is just move these up into place. I'm going to say right about there. Face. And then we're going to move this just a little bit. And the reason for this is because this way we can extrude off of this face and have it follow the finger guard. And basically just, you know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm spitting. Alright, I'm going to have this come halfway. Have it come right here. And then I'll have this come up to here. And then all I have to do is just model these up right about there. I'll model these up right about here. And then we can continue on with the body up here. So I'm going to go up to here. I'm going to go here. Now right here, this actually kind of... Actually, I think that's flat. That is not a Super Hawk. Yeah, so right here, that's actually flat. It has like this little indentation right here. So I'll finagle that later on. For now, I'm just more concerned about this. Now right here, this does kind of like curve out a little bit. It actually follows the center ammo cylinder. I don't know if that's... I know it's called a cylinder. I just don't know the exact name of it. So for this, because this is following a contour, I'm going to go about like that. And then I'll go right up to here. So for this right here, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these middle faces, and I'm going to move them out like so. And then select the very center one and move that out. Yay. So the next thing, let's go ahead and start working on the finger guard, which is the same thing as before. I'm actually going to stop this one right about here. Now, because it's actually rotating, I'm going to rotate the face with it as I'm going down. Something kind of like that. Then move this here. For this, we actually need to move this up to about here, and this one needs to come down. And then what I will do is I'll select those faces. And now I have just this bottom face way down here selected, and this one selected. I will delete those. We'll go into the edge loop, and we will bridge them. There we go. And so now, oh, come on. Now all I have to do is just align these vertices, make sure the contours match up and everything. And that's just a quick hop and a skip, more or less. Just like so. Now, there are a lot of details that you're probably looking at me like, oh, really? Is that really necessary? No, it's really not necessary. The only reason why I do this, like these little tweaks like this, is because, in some of the things that you model, it just, one, it can make it look way better, can make it look more realistic, and the other reason why, because it's just a little extra step that's not really needed, but, I mean, it can really add to the way something looks like. It can really give it that depth. So I got these faces. All I did was move them forward to this point down here. I'm going to go ahead and extrude these. And so now I've extruded that forward. I'm going to deselect this face down here. I'm going to move this forward, like so. So right here, the barrel is just another cylinder. Go figure. And I'm going to create one right here. And go into 90. The reason why you see me, I'll rotate an object first and then I'll come in here and change it is because half the time I can't remember which direction it is. And so I'll rotate it see which one of these values changes, and then I'll just come in and type the value that I really want. The barrel is actually going to have quite a bit of attention to it, so I'm going to go ahead and give this one a value of 10. Move it up. And we'll just scale these forward to about here. Face. Why'd I do that? Okay, so this one, it's not really going to get viewed. You can keep it in there because of this back part where the bullet actually goes through the chamber. It's a little extra detail. You don't have to have it. I'm not going to have it. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete that. Man, I can't quit coughing tonight. I'll blame it on Maya. Alright, so I'm going to select this, and I'm going to do an extrusion to make it right about there. And then I'm going to redo that, and then I'm going to go back with it right about there. So, the reason why I have this little bitty extrusion right here, once again, if you were trying to smooth it, you'd have this odd, weird shape. Without having that there, it would just look way worse. That's really the best way I can describe it. And as you can see now, we have this real clean looking barrel. So that's why I did it like that. So you look down the barrel of the gun, you see this block that obviously a bullet is not going to penetrate. To get rid of that, we're going to do the same trick that we did earlier. We're just going to add some edge loops in here. But these edge loops are going to be different from the ones that we did earlier. I'm just going to add 2 of them, and then I'm going to make sure both of them are selected. And so I know the edge loops are up here, so I'm actually going to deselect these. So now just the front are deselected. I'm actually going to delete the rest. Now if you remember, you can't have anything more than 5 sides. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. But this is where we come into the cut polygon tool, and we just do it like this. So now we have basically I have a triangle right here, and this is just 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles on the upper part. And then right here on this part, actually I'm going to delete these as well because I do not need them. So bye bye. And then we'll just do the same thing up here and right there. So now is what I can do is I can actually manipulate this a little bit. I can make this come up here. I can make this come up here. This will come up. But I cannot manipulate this one down here. And the reason why I can't manipulate it is because of the fact that it's, if I manipulate this right here, you're going to get this, you can see that part of this protruding out. Which, actually, that doesn't look half bad. I think I'm going to keep that. This is actually one of those few times where I'm like, hey, that's actually kind of cool. Normally, I'm like, man, that sucks. But this is one of those cases that, yeah, I'm going to roll with it. So, I'm going to go into here. I'm going to do this little X pattern. And the purpose of this X pattern is I can come back into X-ray. And I can actually move this up. Let's see, where do I want to move this to? That is the real question. I mean, essentially, I could just create 2 more edge loops. That'd probably be the easier thing to do. So just hit Control-Z, undo all those, and then we're just going to create an edge loop from here to here. Easy. We'll do the same thing on this side. And then we'll end it right there, and that right there, and this right here, and this one right here. There we go. And so then I'm just going to take these 2 vertices, and I'm going to scale these in, and then move them up. Move them right about there. And then the rest of these, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to scale them in right about there. and then take these, scale them in right about there, and then take these, guess what? You guessed it, scale them. Now, right now you're probably wondering how come these don't match up. Part of the reason why those don't match up is because I just did an edge loop. I didn't actually take my time to line them up. And if you wanted to, you could actually select them afterwards and move them. I'm not too terribly worried about it, and I'll show you why here in a second. But the biggest thing is just to make sure that these vertices are hidden. That is actually going to be key right now. So I'll move those up just a little bit. And the rest of these are hidden pretty well. So we can go into face. We can select these faces on the inside, and we'll just hit delete. And there we go. So now you can actually look down the barrel of the gun, and you can actually see all the way through. Now, I know right now you're probably looking at this like, what the hell is that? With video games, it doesn't, I'm trying to think, it doesn't render double-sided facing. So I generally have that turned off for this reasoning by itself. Let's see, I'm going to go into vertex now. I actually need to take all these vertices, except for this part right here, and I need to scale these in because the gun is not really this wide in real life. So I'm going to select all of those. I'm just going to scale these in about like so. Probably do a little bit more if you wanted to. Next thing I need to do is work on these. So I'm going to select these vertices. But when you select these, it's also going to select these in the middle. So just basically deselect those because you do not want these selected at all. Otherwise, you're going to get some really interesting problems. Well, maybe not problems, but you'll get some interesting looks, I promise. So then I'll just... Oh, see, I got something else selected. Oh, that's what it is. I got the barrel of the gun selected. I do not want that selected. Alright, here we go. Very nice. Very nice. Let me turn off X-ray. Alright, if you can live with it, I can live with it, we can live with it. Okay, I'm going to live with it. So the handle, I'm actually going to grab the handle right about here and right about here, just this small little section right here. I'm actually going to scale those in a little bit more. Then I'll go ahead and take these edge loops, and I'll do the same thing, scale those in about like that. So now we get this look whenever it's smooth. And the handle I'm going to scale in just a little bit too, because no handle's really that wide. You're not going to have a Thor hand, or a giant hand, or whatever kind of hand you want to call it. I don't even know what you would call that. So now I need to take this face up here, and I need to connect it with this one. I don't just want to do that right off the bat, and the reason why, because you can see that this actually kind of like curves up a little bit. So I'm actually going to do that first, and then I'll select these faces, like so, delete them, and then we'll go into the edge, and we will go ahead and bridge them together, like so. Then I will take this vertice, I'm going to move it down right about there. And so now we have the body of the handgun modeled. And let's go ahead and do the trigger real quick. The trigger, this is going to be one of the hardest things you have ever done. Are you ready for this, YouTube? Boom. Then we move these. Then we move these. And the reason why I'm keeping these kind of high, because I'm actually going to have the pivot right about here. But here comes a really hard part. You already know what's coming, don't you? Of course you do. You are YouTube. You are the internet community. Be proud. Be one. And there we go. Told you that'd be difficult. Hardest thing you've ever done in your whole life, ain't it? Oh, yep, see? There you go. Right about there. And that's the body for now. The cylinder, this is going to be the really hard one. And boom. I will move this in about like that. Scale this out. And we'll change this to 12. The reason why 12, because I actually want to add an edge loop. Come on. I want to add an edge loop right about here and right about here. So next thing we need to do, we actually need to rotate this just a little bit where these are even. And then we'll select these faces. Come on, Maya. We'll select those faces and those faces. So now we got these faces selected. Going to... Okay. There we go. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's actually what I was wanting. So the reason for me selecting these is the cylinder actually has these little shapes like this. And I'll show you how to add more detail in just a minute. But for now, is what we want to do is we want to extrude these in. So we'll click on that. We'll come here. We'll extrude those down. Then we'll extrude these in. And then we will move this forward just a little bit. Let's see where we're at here on the viewport. Oh yeah, see, we got all kinds of interesting errors. So I'm going to move this forward right about here. We'll go into vertex. We'll select these, and we will flatten these out. Then we'll select all of these, and we'll just move this back. And no, I better keep that. That'd be a bad idea for me to delete that. Reason why, because now that I have these where they actually curve in, whenever I smooth this, as you can see now, this actually creates the back profile of it where it's tighter. And that's the only reason why I don't want to delete that or anything like that. So move this right about here. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like. That is definitely getting closer. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding these extra edges in, like so. I'm not really too worried about making them like super even or anything, just because I don't want you to fall asleep and be like, man, this guy sucks. So that's the only reason why I'm not like trying to haul ass and, you know, make everything look super immaculate or anything spectacular like that. I'm just me and you're just you, and I'm just trying to make it look decent, give you an idea on some of the different tricks that you can do, some of the things that I've learned along the way of, you know, little tutorials that I've watched and things like that. So now we got this where it's starting to look more like a cylinder. It's definitely getting a lot closer. So then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these faces again. Let's see. Just go in here, select this like so. There we go. I'll select all of these, and then I will select all of these. Nope. Go. Did I have them all selected? Almost. You're probably thinking, man, this dude is boring the hell out of me. And I'd probably have to agree. So, select those. I'm going to move these in just a hair. And now, as you can see, we actually have the barrel shape, which is what we want. And I'm going to go ahead and add the edge loop back here. There we go. So now we actually have the cylinder shape that a normal handgun would have. And that does not look half bad. It all lines up. I'm happy with that. Let me go ahead and select this edge loop. I'm going to scale this in. Make it kind of, yeah, I'm going to say right about here. Yeah, I'm going to scale it in just a little bit more. There we go. So, there we go. The handguns actually have pretty tight profiles. I'm not going to add the edge loops out here on the edges. Why do I keep doing that? I'm not going to add these edge loops like this just yet. And the reason why I'm not adding those is because of the fact that on the handguns, you don't have this open space. There's actually fact, I'll just show you. Oh, come on. There we go. So it actually kind of comes out like this. There we go. But if you're to really look at it, you'd kind of think, but wait, that has an indention. And it does have an indention. There's multiple ways you can do this. You can add in an edge loop right about here. And then all you would do would just be... Let's see, I want to actually delete most of these edge loops. I'm going to delete all of these right down here. Why did I just do that? There we go. And then with these selected, I'm going to, guess what? Scale them in. Nope, can't do that. Deselect those, and then I'll scale them in. I'm just going to try and make it close. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time with this, mainly because now I'm starting to get kind of tired. So now when we do this, let's see. That's pretty close. I think I can live with that. I think I can live with that. Can you live with that, YouTube? I hope you can. Okay, so I'm going to take these and move them back. Do the same thing here. I'm going to move that one right about there. And then we just have to create these and attach them to there. I cannot quit coughing. That is awesome. Okay, so do the same thing here. I'm pretty sure I attached that there. There we go. And so now we can go ahead and add our favorite edge loops. One thing to keep in mind, when you add this one here, you're going to get some really interesting patterns like this. That's okay. Nothing to be concerned about. I'll show you how to fix those here in just a second. So we have this interesting pattern right here that goes all the way around the gun. Now I'm going to keep this edge loop up here. So we're just going to deselect all of these. And then right here on this inner one, this is where we will delete it. And then we'll just do the same thing. We'll take the cut tool and we'll cut it. I guess we're going to have to cut it right here. No biggie. Did I just see something? I did just see something. Okay. So this is actually really interesting. Sometimes you have this problem where there's an extra vertice that just pops out of nowhere. It's like, here I am. And so I don't know why this happens. Maybe someone else out there, you're watching this tutorial and like, well, this is why it happens, you idiot. If you know why it happens, just kind of put it in the comments. Let me know, because I've been kind of curious about this. Like, why does it create that one vertice that just appears out of nowhere? So, yeah, so we'll click there. Oh, I see why now. Wow, I just figured it out myself. Okay, so anyways, delete that there. There we go. And so now whenever we smooth this, you can now see that this looks a lot better. You can actually work a little bit more on this if you wanted to. Like, you can add another edge loop right around here and basically just manipulate the hell out of it, like so. Not really required. Oops, I did not realize I had that selected up there. There we go. This isn't really required. It's actually more so just an extra step you can take to give it a little bit more depth. I'm kind of anal with some of the things I do, so the more realistic I can make it look, the happier I'm going to end up being. This is how it's going to look when it's smooth or pretty close to it. I'm actually going to want to take these vertices right here. I'm going to scale these out. I promise this tutorial is almost over because I'm sure some of you are like, come on, dude, hurry up. Let's see. Yep, I selected some of them up here. There we go. So now I'm just going to drop these down right about there. There we go. Good enough for government work. And then for this right here, I'm going to create an edge loop right here. it is not this smooth, so I'm going to create an edge loop right here. Do the same thing right here. Come down here, same thing, about there. And no, I'm going to have a couple more. One right about there. This will be the last one. There we go. Oh, wait, nope, one more. Create an edge loop right there. So, that's actually really tight. I don't like it. That's okay. Because all I have to do is deselect these. I will delete those. Go into one. And then I'll take the edge tool. Connect it here. Come over here. Vertex. Did that create multiple vertices? No, it did not. Sweet. And then we'll do a quick count. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're good. Now whenever we smooth it, that actually doesn't look half bad. Oh, wait. I totally missed something. YouTube, how can you let me miss that? Some of y'all probably like, hey man, you're the teacher. Okay, there we go. I'm going to work more on the body a little bit later on. I'm actually going to call it quits for the tutorials that we're on. So far, we're down to only 3,000 triangles. That's actually very respectable, because whenever we smooth it, this is about what we're going to get. I totally pushed the wrong button. So whenever we smooth it, I'm just going to go ahead and smooth it. This way you can see what I'm talking about. We're at 12,000 triangles right now. And some of these I'm going to clean up. Like, I'll be able to delete these two right here, and that's going to greatly, well, not greatly reduce it, but it will reduce it significantly. So I'm going to continue on with this tutorial a little bit more tomorrow. That will be part 3, and I hope to see you there. Until then, see you later.